I welcome all of you, and you are most welcome to raise any questions, any ideas that you want to interject during the discourse. It's not a memorized lecture. I have only some lecture points to help me, and each slide is to be elaborated in shortest possible words. But if you find in those slides or my communication any problem, just feel free. Okay. So we start with our first discourse. It relates with professional ethics and morality, how it is understood in the East and the West. As you see from here, the term ethics has its Greek origin, and that refers to custom or usage. The term has been used for centuries, and we refer to Aristotle, who employed this term to include both idea of character and disposition, personality and inclination. Both these aspects are considered by Aristotle in this term ethics or ethikos. Morals or morality was introduced by Roman philosopher Cicero 106 BC, who regarded it as the Latin equivalent of ethics. So for him it was not a major difference, but he thought that in Latin we call it morals, while in Greek it was called ethics. Now the meaning of this term as understood by Western philosophers, and unfortunately our main source for most of our knowledge comes through West. Whether you are dealing with dentistry, physiotherapy or another area, you find that textbooks and reference point is always someone in the West. Therefore we have no choice but to refer to them, but we will try in this course of discussion to come up with our own understanding based on purely Islamic sources, namely the Quran and Sunnah. So ethics is defined as philosophical study of moral life. Moral life means whatever you are doing in terms of observing of some values. It's a value to bow down in front of your grandfather or a scholar or someone whom you respect. But why you bow down? What's the philosophy? Ethics is that philosophization. Therefore, it assumes the role of theory construction. It provides theoretical basis, while morality mostly is its application. When you say someone is immoral, simply means his conduct, behavior has some blemishes, some doubts, some problems. When you say something is unethical, a professor has published a research paper for which he worked 10% of time. 60% one research fellow, 30% another research fellow. But his name appears as first author. It's unethical. Unfortunately, not only in our country, but in many parts of the world you will find that so-called professors who claim they carry knowledge and morality indulge in this immoral activity. Therefore, ethics and morality are two sides of a coin. We will not waste much time in debating on which is better or which is lesser. Anyhow, morality or morals refer to manners observed by a specific community, reasoned knowledge of what is considered ethical. Morals also mean habitual conduct of or behavior of a society, moral sanctions and principles imposed on people in a society. So if you find a person welcoming someone by not smiling, by not shaking hand, by not showing by bodily gesture that you are welcoming someone, it appears it's a culture of that society. They don't behave in that manner. Why they don't do it? Again, we go back to their ethical foundations or their philosophical reasons. So ethics and morality are defined. Now, what is the meaning of professional ethics? Professional ethics means that whatever profession you have, it has certain norms, certain practices, and unless you observe those, you are not following professional ethics. Every profession, therefore, whether very sophisticated or less sophisticated, if you are in an OT and you have not put your gown, and that gown is not sterilized either, and you walk in your normal shoes, then it is non-professionalism. Or if you allow a friend of yours whose son or daughter is going to be operated, that they walk in the way they like, it's unprofessional. They may be your very dear friend, but you have to make sure that you are observing professional ethics, which means whether an area is very sophisticated or something is very, very simple. In every walk of life, in every profession, you have to observe certain ethics. You have an old shoe, you go to a cobbler, and that requires very thin stitching. The cobbler uses a very thick thread and stitches it. It's unprofessionalism, which means unethical, although you are paying him the same amount. So teaching is no different. It's not a matter of carrying a PhD, an MS, and MPhil, and then assume that you can interact with the students. It's not a matter of just quantum of knowledge which you have memorized, like in mathematical sciences, in physics sometimes. When we interview our candidates, then the head of department gives them a piece of paper and then ask for an equation by their memory. They just put it down on paper and we feel comfortable. Is that enough? What is the ethics? So teaching, interaction with your students is not a matter of just a way of earning money. It's not a job. It is a professional activity, and therefore ethical dimensions as well as your academic content both have to be rigorously evaluated, checked again and again, updated again and again. If you are using your lecture points which you made 5 years back without any kind of modification and change, you are intellectually dead person and you are just passing old information to your students. Therefore, professional ethics means in any area of life, what steps are being taken by you. So anyone who is involved, and I give examples here, whether it's a medical profession or any other area, you need to observe certain principles. But when we observe those, a question arises: is this good or bad, right or wrong, evil or virtue? Ethics essentially is a discipline that deals with these terms, their meaning and implications. Is it good that in a class you have 15 girls and 20 boys, and you are always gazing in the faces of girls when you are giving a lecture? Is it ethical that when someone comes to your office, you behave in a manner as a very, very informal and give a feeling that you are a friend while you have some other motivations? Ethics is not a matter of just a warm shake hand, and particularly in education, because you are molding the mind and soul and personality of those who are given under your custody for a specific period. Every single action of your body, every single word of yours carry a message. And therefore, for a teacher, it's not a matter of just enjoying teaching a class and coming back and saying, well, I have done a remarkable job by giving them some information. No, it's a matter of great ethical responsibility. And therefore, this semester we are having this first interaction with you on what is understanding of ethics in the East and the West. Unfortunately, not big difference, but sometimes for our easiness we classify. You have Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, Asian philosophy, Chinese philosophy, all those categorizations just to make things easy. But if we go further deeper, perhaps there are not so remarkable differences. Any question till now? कोई भी सवाल आपका जो आपके जहन में आ रहा हो, कोई चीज़ जो आप ऐड करना चाहते हो, क्योंकि ये कोई लेक्चर का मौका नहीं है कि मैं आपको लेक्चर दे रहा हूँ, बल्कि यहाँ सिर्फ मेरी ख्वाहिश ये है कि इन इश्यूज़ के ऊपर आप लोग सोचें, गौर करें और फिर मुकाबला करें ख़ुद अपना, अपने कोलीग्स का, अपने साबिक़ा असातिज़ा का, अपने तलबा के बिहेवियर का, कि हम उसमें कहाँ तक उनके साथ एक अखलाक़ी रवैया अख्तियार किए हुए हैं और कहाँ तक हम उन्हें वो चीज़ें मुंतकिल कर रहे हैं जो आइंदा माशरे की तामीर कर सकती हैं. इट्स नॉट ए मैटर ऑफ जस्ट ए 50 minutes class for 1 hour period where I go 10 minutes late and leave 10 minutes earlier. It's something different. It's not that formality which is known as classroom attendance. So any questions, please feel free. Now for this module on ethics and morality, we are using this book, William Lilly. It has become a classic because it has been used for over 50 years as a textbook, introductory textbook in most of the universities who were influenced by Europe. Definitely, if you are in America, they will never use it. It's a British author. So, and since we are colonized by the British, we still use their textbooks. So, for last 50 years, this is the book which is used mostly in our universities, and we thought it's easily available. Let's use it as text in this course also. So, Lilly defines ethics as normative science of the conduct of human beings living in societies, a science which judges this conduct to be right or wrong, to be good or bad. Therefore, when we scientifically, systematically, step by step analyze something, we call it scientific. If we do it haphazardly, without categorization, classification, analysis, then we say it's a jumbled up situation. So science does not mean anatomy, botany and physics, but science simply means that body of knowledge which is properly analyzed and arranged. So ethics is a normative science. There are sciences which are normative, sciences which are positive. Most of applied sciences are known as positive sciences. Does not mean others are negative. or not constructive. Every single word has its professional application. So when we are saying positive sciences, means that these are applied sciences. Physical sciences, natural sciences, all fall in that category. So William Lilly is defining it in terms of a science which helps us in judging our conduct, whether it is good or bad. A good research, a bad research. A very delicious soup, a very bad soup. A very nicely stitched shalwar kameez, a horribly stitched dress. A lecture well organized and something which is just an oration but no meaning. So every single action that we can assume, think about, has these two dimensions. Is it good or bad? And that's what ethics is. So you find a science is defined is a systematic body of knowledge about a particular set of related events or objects. Political science deals with systematically political behavior of a group. Medical science deals with the systematic study of health and welfare and well-being of a human being. And ethics as a science provides a systematic body of norms, values and principles. Norms, values and principles. We will go in more detail about these three terms, but norms means what becomes normally an accepted phenomena. So we call it norm. Value, what you give importance. Do you give value to health or not, depends on your food habit. If you are very much so-called weight conscious and throughout the week you take early morning just a cup of tea without milk and take one boiled egg in a week and take just 3 ounces of meat in a day and remain very happy. To celebrate your weight watching on the weekend, you take a cheesecake and eat a pizza and have a strawberry shake, then you have lost everything. Is that good or bad? Therefore, in every single action, norms and values. If you value health, then you have to control your desire for cheesecake, or else you don't value health. You may not know it, but that's how it is. So we'll go in more details what's meant by the, and then principles. What is principle for everything? Everything has a principle. Why, if I have this notebook and I leave it, it falls down? There must be a principle. And so what are principles for our behavior, ethics and morality? I said a while ago that ethics is a normative science. Positive sciences deal with the descriptive aspect, where you are not passing any value judgment. Therefore, you normally say a piece of rock is having that much phosphate, that much calcium, that much ferrous, but you never say that this is the most handsome, most beautiful, most tidy, most attractive rock. No value judgment. But you are just telling us its constitution, its physical constitution, what constitutes. So an ophthalmologist informs us about the constitution of our eye and its health. Economist tells about wealth generation, investment, effects of inflation and economic development and the related areas. None of descriptive or positive sciences claim to deal beyond their domain or set of objects and facts. Is if a PhD in physics or chemistry comes and says that Bible is a bunch of lies, is he qualified to say that? He can tell us about what Einstein, what Maxwell, what Max Planck, what so and so has said about a physical phenomena. He carries a PhD in that. But if he comes and says that Bible is a bunch of lies and he's a big scientist, or he says God does not exist, because it's not his domain at all. His domain is physical phenomena, but he is giving a judgment on something which is metaphysical. So this positive sciences have no business in making normative judgments. Normative sciences, any problem till now? Any difficulty problem till now? Okay. Another group of sciences deal systematically with observable conduct and behavior from an axiological or normative viewpoint. Just disregard axiological. It's a technical term, you don't have to. Just as I can never memorize medical terms which you people have to memorize when you are doing your Bachelor of Health and Bachelor of Surgery. No one can memorize those normally, but you memorize it. So forget about it. All it means is something which is based on values, axioms. So axiological and normative, which means that there are two kinds of observations. In positive sciences, you observe the behavior of market. In normative sciences, you observe the behavior which is based on values and norms. So two different ways of observation and evaluation. These sciences deal with standards, rules, or conventions by which we judge objects, phenomena, conduct, or prescriptions as good or bad, right or wrong, evil or virtuous. Aesthetics, for example, deals with the standards by which we judge and perceive objects as beautiful or ugly. Logic deals with standards by which we judge statements as true or false, consistent or inconsistent. If we say that it's extremely cold and chilly, let's go out in swimming trunk. Is that a logical statement? We must say let's go out by wearing some warm clothing. So it's illogical, inconsistent. Ethics deal with standards by which we judge human actions to be right or wrong. Therefore, ethics as a normative science judges human conduct and actions as good or bad, appropriate or inappropriate. When good is taken to be key to ethical behavior, this leads to ethical theory characterized by value fulfillment and right means fulfillment of a set of obligations towards others. Such theories are termed axiological. That's why we used this term earlier, just to explain that axiological means when these theories are normative, when they are based on certain principles, and those principles are based on certain observations and a continuous monitoring of those phenomena. And these things stress final goal, purpose, objective or design. Although everything has an objective. When you have a crane, you have an objective to lift heavy objects. But when a crane lifts a automobile, is it good or bad or mechanical? Is it doing a good job or bad job? Therefore, ethics is dealing with normative aspects, not with physical aspects, chemical aspects, mechanical aspects. But what is the ultimate purpose and design? When right is taken as key obligation and duty, such theories are termed deontological. Again I repeat, when right is taken as key obligation, is this right? Something is good, but is it also right? It is good to eat an orange, but is it also right to eat orange when you are having high level of acidity? Two separate things. So when is something right or good, a difference exists between the result or the meaning of the term or action. So when right is taken as key obligation and duty, deontological. For example, is it right to salute parents, or it is just good? You may feel good or bad about it, but is it also right? Right carries a legal weightage, while your feeling good does not carry a legal weightage. Therefore, when something is right means this has also a legal sanction. Is it right for a medical doctor to check the pulse of a female patient not by counting 70 times rate of pulse, but 270 times the rate of pulse? That long contact of two bodies, is it right or wrong? Therefore, something may be good but not right. So all those theories that deal with what is right, therefore all legal sciences are deontological. Again, you should not bother yourself with memorizing of terms, but try to get to the meaning, understanding, and wherever you have a minor doubt about a terminology or my pronunciation of a word, please raise your voice. You don't have to listen to me. I am here just to assist you in understanding these concepts. So I am facilitator. I am not here a priest, an orator, or giving a Jummah khutbah. So good and right can be viewed as either objective, independent existence, or subjective, standing for a human intervention. Even when we say something is good or bad, is it absolutely good or bad, or is it subjectively good or bad? When you give your students a grade which you call A or C, then in your intellectual classification, have you put all shades so clearly that it cannot be C plus or B minus, or that cannot be A plus or A minus? It has to be only A. And is it really objective? Is it based on your encounter with your student, who is always in the class using his or her mobile, keeping on the lap, assuming you don't know about it, and sending text messages, and you are annoyed? So you say, okay, I'll teach him a lesson, give him C, let's see what happens next. Is this subjective or objective? Therefore, ethics is not always subjective, not always objective. Axioms means there are certain things which are objective. It may be based on convention, based on something else, but it has assumed that the level of axiom, principle, not always subjective. Okay, so The former is termed as ethical objectives, while the later called ethical subjective. The epistemological question, how the good and right are known, is answered by either naturalists who claim right can be known as natural objects are known, and right can be empirically verified. Again, I am very sorry for this term. Episteme or epistemology may look horrible term. It simply means theory of knowledge. How knowledge originates, from where it comes, and what are its implications. Therefore, when you find this word used by intellectuals, mainly social scientists, psychologists, sociologists, economists, historians, philosophers, political scientists, and they use this word epistemology or epistemically, then it simply means based on theory of knowledge. Whatever we are discussing here till now is based on what Lilly and others tell us about ethics and morality. And when we say what William Lilly says, it's not William Lilly alone. It is 5,000 Lillys going up to Aristotle. And from Aristotle till today, whatever we are reading in these books is essentially an epistemology, a theory of knowledge, which has its roots and foundations in Greek thought, which Europe, America, Africa, Asia, whoever influenced by them are using. Whether you are doing your Bachelor of Surgery and Medicine in RA Medical College, or doing it in Bristol, or doing it in Perth, you go for Gray's Anatomy. Why Gray's Anatomy? Why not someone else? That means knowledge given by Gray about human body originates somewhere in Europe, more particularly in the UK. And from there it goes all over the world. So human body is visualized exactly as this book tells you. That means theory of knowledge based on a Western source. We may never realize it, but when we talk, when you laugh, when you joke, when you say this good music, all that is based on theory of knowledge. When you read in Newsweek or Time magazine or some other paper that these are 5 best musicals of Broadway in New York, clicks, and then you compare that with others and say, now this is good and this is bad. Therefore, what kind of dress should I wear? What colors I take? What kind of trimming? If in a so-called fashion show, in catwalk, certain dress is used in Paris, in London, in New York, that becomes the norm, whether east or west. And you find in your own country very sensible girls and women who are not childish, but they go for that which is in vogue, in fashion. Shirts that had a slit down near hips or below hips have gone above. necklines changing. Why? Epistemology, knowledge, theory of knowledge. Coming from where? From Timbuktu? No. Therefore, epistemology is not just philosophical term. Theory of knowledge means what is the source of knowledge for you, for saying good or bad. When we say a sportsman is good, then don't we have in our imagination a Western movie where a sportsman has walked in a specific manner with long hair and a jacket and a trouser, which is in our mind as standard, and whoever uses that, it's a good and it's bad? Knowledge. Therefore, when we say IT revolution, it means what kind of knowledge, what kind of concepts you are getting. I have failed till now to find out an appropriate word in English language which may translate one single concept that we call haya. Go throughout thesaurus, dictionaries, and try to find out synonyms and antonyms and what not. If you have grasped the meaning of haya, it is not just shyness, it's not timidness, it's not introvertness, it's something different, but no single word. Perhaps they have no concept there, so no word. If they have no concept, they will have no word for that. And all that because of epistemology, knowledge. So when this word is used, epistemological question, how good and right is known, it means that what is the source of your telling us is good and bad? Is it because John Doe has said it? Unfortunately, that's how it is. Unfortunately, that's how it is. If John Doe has said something is good, then we say something is good. Why do we use this word state of the art, scientific development? What state of the art? What's happening in Stanford? What's happening in Oxford? State of the art. We are prisoners of these terms, slaves. We have not liberated ourselves. No liberation. And that's knowledge, all knowledge. So this word epistemology or this concept simply means that when we are talking about what is right and wrong, when a young girl on breakfast table tells you, Mama, I don't want this paratha, I want cornflakes, then what is the source of knowledge for this 4-year-old girl? Why is she saying it? It's epistemology. Because she has seen on the TV screen 95 times. If you take Nestle's milk and if you take the what's the brand of this cornflake of that brand, you become strong. Why you find your own students, when they feel thirsty, they would like to have a bottle of Dew, Coke or some other soft drink, because they have seen 95 times. If you are climbing Mount Everest or K2 and you jump from Mount Everest to K2 in 5 seconds, then you take a drink of that, gives you all that strength. It's knowledge, epistemology. We are prisoners. You never realize that. That's salesmanship, branding. All these terms are used, and our department teaches that. Department of Management Sciences. Anyhow, sorry for my very blunt observation. Sometimes I'm normally not emotional person, but sometimes these things come out. So we are saying that epistemological question means that what is the source of saying good and bad, and that means trying to find out its root, not just on the face of the things, not just superficially, that you are studying ethics, so you read William Lilly and now you know ethics. No, what you know from Lilly is what is Western paradigm or model of knowledge or epistemology which tells you this is good or bad. That's what you know. You don't know yet what is right and wrong. So those who think ethical terms do not stand for anything objective are called non-cognitives, which means then ultimately, can we say something is good or bad? Is there a way of finding out? Or is it Eastern or Western based on environment? Another term used, which I may be appearing sometime later in social sciences, is social construct, which means what society has constructed and has become practiced by people. So do we say something is good because society says so? 50 years back, if a young woman was wearing a burqa, which is typical Afghan or Pashtun burqa, and people call it shuttlecock burqa to degrade it. Nobody will say it's something very bad. But if on your campus a girl comes in that attire, would you call it good or bad? Who will determine? The culture from where she is coming, or your culture or your concepts? Is there something really good, or it's all relative? Therefore, ethics also discusses this issue of how things are objectively good or bad. You are all victims of that individualism which West has put in your mind and soul. Therefore, you say, I don't like it. Therefore, a young girl who is just entering a university and just has done her intermediate and knows nothing about what's right and wrong actually, she comes and tells her parents, this is the boy I want to marry. And you ask her why? It's my choice. I'm an adult. I decide what's right and wrong. What's the basis of that? Perhaps a soap opera, perhaps a drama, perhaps a book she has read. And normally, whether you are sending your girls to A&O level or any other, A&O level are crazy after Agatha Christie and many others who are given to them from their childhood to study. And all those books that you read make your imagination. What kind of husband, what kind of friend, what kind of society you want. Prisoners of that. Is that enough to decide what's good and bad? So ethics is not just a matter of some philosophical concepts, but it's a matter of this ongoing process in which you have to find out what's really objective and subjective. They think ethical judgments stand for emotions, attitudes, proposals, and recommendations. So we have two categories, non-cognitive and those who are relativist and naturalist, and so on and so forth. Ethical perceptions of Western philosophers, here you find a variety of ideas and sometimes very closeness. Socrates viewed ethics as inner principles which are decided internally. It's better to suffer than to do evil. He holds a naturalist intuitionist approach. Again, these terms are psychological and philosophical, don't bother about them, just try to understand the meaning. Is it better, it's a typological error, is it better to suffer than to do an evil? So for him, and it is that what comes from inside is ethical. If your heart says I should do it, then do it. But can we make it always a judge, subjective or not subjective? Plato argues that good or eternal form to be realized in human life, he holds a teleological intuitionist approach, which means that there is a purpose and objective in everything. Aristotle holds goal of life is happiness or well-being. Therefore, if you feel happy about something, then you are a teleologist or naturalist. You are responding to your nature. Saint Augustine considers happiness as universal principle, and therefore he also falls in the same category. Now, you will find that happiness is one of the most common prayer you give to people. You say, may Allah keep you happy. But happy in what sense? Happy means New Year evening when you are jumping and drinking and throwing balloons and having what you call illuminations, lights. Is that happiness? Or happiness means that you are walking in a street and you give a hungry person some food. What happiness? How you see it, how you measure it, what causes it. So although saying happiness is not enough, but they say it. Immanuel Kant, German philosopher, he considers that ethical conduct has to be categorical, imperative, which means whatever law demands is to be done. If law demands that you stand up and salute a person, you have to do it. You may not like it. Therefore, for him, whatever is law also becomes ethical, or ethics assume status of law. Ethics is no more a matter of choice. I may like, may not like, but ethics means doing it as an obligation. So ethics becomes a right, not just a desire. Bentham, British philosopher, considers greatest good of the greatest number as goal to be achieved. He is one of the founders of utilitarianism, that if you are looking for the large number of people's welfare or good, then that is good. If 98% people or 51% people of Pakistan say that we should not hang a murderer, then it is good not to hang. This is the meaning of good of the people, which you call democracy. If a majority of parliamentarians say that we should use textbooks published by Oxford University only, then it's also good, because 52% have said that. So whatever is the ultimate good of a large number becomes good for Bentham as well as a few others. And Mill, a greater sum of highest pleasure, there was benefit and here is pleasure. And Nietzsche talks about the will to power, what gives you power is ethical. Therefore, you grab it and it becomes good. It's not necessary that you follow certain steps for that. Then some of them consider that ethical norms and what is good and bad is a matter of social conditions, which I said a while ago, social construct. So for them it's a matter of relative ethics. Therefore, you hear in your own country people saying, well, this is the ethical practice in Balochistan, this is Pakhtun practice, this Punjabi practice, so don't worry about it. Which means that all these have different standards of ethics and morality. They forget that whether you are living in Punjab or Afghanistan or Balochistan, anywhere else, if you claim to be Muslim, you cannot have these 5 different bases of ethics. You can have only one basis of ethics. You cannot say that it's Balochi truth, it's Pakhtun truth, it's Punjabi truth. The truth has to be one. Why? Because of epistemology, which means theory and origin of knowledge. If origin of your knowledge is Islam, then your customs must be subservient to it. The whole business of so-called local culture, provincial culture, historical culture is a Western imposition on our minds through textbooks, through media, through political pressures, and we have accepted that. Sir? Actually, this question belongs to our second module, where we talk about Islamic thought and civilization, and in that particularly we have a whole unit on Islamic legal thought. In Islamic legal system, there are various terms used. One term is urf, ain re fe, urf. Urf means custom. The root word is arafa, which is also the root word for ma'rifa, for ma'roof, for good, and so on and so forth. But when we say urf, it means custom. Our legal thinkers say that certain things which are customary and they do not conflict with the other usul of law, other principles of law, are to be allowed, which means you cannot scrap every single custom, but only those which conflict with the principles. The urf in Makkah Mukarramah was that you make tawaf without dress. This urf was not allowed to continue, but they were told you have to use these 2 plain sheets which everyone can afford, poorest of the poor, richest of the rich, makes no difference. And that is enough for you. You don't need to show your richness or poverty by dress, but all should be same. So, since that urf conflicted with the principle of Sharia, it was not allowed. Only those urf or customs which are aligned with the earlier principles of Sharia: Quran, Sunnah, Ijma and Ijtihad. Therefore, in terms of priority, urf comes much lower. Higher principles should precede, lower principle should adjust. Therefore, we do not have customary ethics. We have ethics which is given by the Quran and Sunnah. When you go to a friend in Syria or in Turkey, or you go to a friend in Sibbi, thank you, and just as you enter, he hugs you, very warm welcome, and as soon as you sit, his son brings a cup of green tea or kahwa. Is it just a Pashtun custom? Globally. Therefore, the whole concept of culture is colonial culture which we teach. We mean by culture that dress which is hand woven in Balochistan and mostly maroon color and blue color and green color is used in stitching, whether they are using mirror or making embroidery, and usually the patterns are conic. You travel from Balochistan and go to Afghanistan, from there go to Turkey and Iran, and try to find out what kind of embroidery they are making. You will find a continuity. Why they are doing it? We never ask, but we say this is Balochi. No. There are certain internal links which are universal and accepted. The basis is not just local custom. We will go in more detail when we proceed further, but right now, since you raised the question, local culture and custom does have a place, but it's much subservient. Islamic ethics, when we talk about it, we'll see that it's very much different than what you are hearing from me till now. Okay, so there are ethical relativists, and our generation of youth with us presently is essentially a generation of ethical relativists, including their parents also. Their parents included, not just this generation, because they judge everything relatively, which means how in our friendship circle, how in our brotherly, how in our home something is viewed. That is allowed, perfectly okay. You try to analyze celebrations, occasions which are very sad, normal ceremonies in society. What do they indicate? What do we do physically, emotionally and verbally? All those are based on relative ethics. If Islam says that you cannot have proximity, closeness with a stranger and no body contact either, and you find boys and girls in this university sitting very close to each other on the pavements, then is it relative or absolute? Relative. Because they are told by their parents, no, nothing wrong, is just a friend. You can go with your friend to a cafeteria, you can go to a friend to a dinner, you can go to a friend to a late night function and come back. It's okay, we trust you. Is that ethics? Absolute ethics? Relative ethics. Every single thing we are doing is based on these Eastern and Western concepts, and not which is absolute truth but relative. So then this is the most recent philosopher after Sartre, John Ravel, very much respected in the West even today, who considers what is just and fair is also ethically good, very much near to Immanuel Kant. Sartre, or Sartre as French call him, considers that whatever is in your view authentic and reliable is also good. So your personal experience, you decide what is right and good, and that is good for you. And that fits very well in Western culture. Every single person who thinks I have reached adulthood or teenage believes it is his and her right to do whatever they want, and their parents have nothing to say about it. They can call police if parents disagree with them and say it's my right and my parents don't want me. So the term good generally means a thing which is valuable for some end or purpose. It often refers to an end, not a means. Therefore considered summum bonum. Good means what's ultimately good, supreme good. Building a house, purchasing a car may be an end but not a supreme good or summum good. You may buy a good automobile, you may think it's very impressive, but is that also ultimate good? When a person who has been all his life riding on a bike or a motorbike buys an Suzuki FX, how he feels. When after 2 years he buys a Suzuki Swift, how he feels. When after 1 year he buys a Corolla, how he feels. Is that ultimate good? Therefore, good is to be understood in its wider sense, not summum good, but just good. Human beings have a variety of ideals, objectives and purpose of life, such as wealth, power, knowledge, love, serving others, etc. Therefore, you find some people saying that my religion is serving humanity. But is that also ultimate good? Is humanity ultimately your God and good? So the concepts which we are dealing here are not just abstract, but these exist in our society. Ethics as normative science offers criteria to make a cognitive or rational perceptive judgment in conduct of affairs. It helps us in making a judgment, should we do it or not. Okay. Till now, any problems? Very strange, unbelievable, but that's how it is anyhow. If you say, I have to believe it. So ethics being theoretical implies that knowledge of ethical principles is expected to help in good conduct. We are saying expected to help. If you have read a book of ethics, does not mean you are ethical. Two different things. That's why we say, why Pakistan is not progressing? We say, but we never do. Simple. We never realize that. So ethics helps us, these principles provide us with a basis to develop a good conduct. Its study cannot necessarily make men and women pious and virtuous. You find that everyone in his home has a copy of the Quran, and sometimes people read also, not just keep it for decoration. But even when they read, and never understand, is that good or bad? Do they ever ask themselves, whatever I am doing, is it good? We never ask. We do it customarily, just for blessing. But it's not for blessing, it's something else. For example, its study can For example, a good painter is one who can paint beautifully. A good man is not one who can, but one who does act rightly. A good painter is good when he is asleep. A good man is not good when asleep, unless it is good to sleep. We say we are all scholars, researchers, because we think doing research and seeking knowledge is good. But are we really searching for knowledge, or trying to, in the name of knowledge, glorify Wikipedia and Google and sometimes even professional papers plagiarized? Why we have to run tests on each document given to us in universities? Why? There was no need at all. We must have trusted our intellectuals. But we are required by university rules as well as by HEC, when you submit a thesis for your MPhil or PhD, we must run plagiarism test. Why? Because of this, unethical. And it goes on and on. So, goodness is not a capacity or potentiality, but a volitional activity. Volitional means a willful, desirable, where you are involved. A person who is a professional jeweler, you go to him and take a piece of gold, a ring, and you think it is all pure gold. But even without rubbing on the stone, he takes in his hand and tells you genuine or not. But can he also tell you, is gold good or bad? He can only tell you what grade it is, but cannot make the judgment. Ethics is that science that equips you with more valuable capacity, when you can judge and say, is it really also good and bad? And that's why it's a rare discipline and not quite often taken seriously by even people who think they are ethical. The essence of virtue lies in the will. A good will is good not because of what it performs or effects, not by aptness for the attainment of some proposed end, but simply by virtue of the volitions. ये मेरे जो लेक्चर पॉइंट्स हैं आप सबको ईमेल हो जाएंगे, तो इसलिए आप फ़िक्रमंद ना हो, दोबारा गौर से देख सकते हैं आप लोग. इसमें कोई मेरा कमाल नहीं है. आई हैव इंडिकेटेड सोर्स ऑल्सो जहाँ से पॉइंट्स लिए गए. तो लेकिन यहाँ मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप लोग जितना हो सके इनको क्रिटिकली एग्जामिन भी करें, डिफ़र करें इनसे, क्वेश्चन करें, डिबेट करें, because we want our faculty members proactive and not dull, not just whatever a teacher says they accept. They must question and debate and discuss. So even teacher has to go back and do more research and come back to you. And teacher should have that much humbleness to declare publicly, I don't know this, I'll come back to you after 2 days after having studied. But we need your help in raising issues which you think are important and that emerge in this discourse, discussion of ethical principles. जो कुछ मैंने गुजारिशात की हैं मैं उन सब को आपसे उर्दू में भी अर्ज़ कर सकता हूँ, लेकिन मेरा तजर्बा ये है कि 15 मिनट गुफ्तगू करने के बाद लोग मुझसे कहते हैं कि नहीं अंग्रेज़ी बेहतर थी, तो इसलिए मैं उर्दू को ज़्यादा इस्तेमाल नहीं करता इस खौफ की बिना पर कि बहुत से वो अल्फाज जो आपकी नस्ल ने और आपसे पहले की नस्ल ने बड़े आसान समझ के इख्तियार किए थे और आज वो आसान अल्फाज समझते हैं कि बड़े अदक और मुश्किल अल्फाज हैं। तो इस बिना पर मुझे कोई अंग्रेज़ी से मोहब्बत नहीं है, ना अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मैं कोरोनाइज्ड माइंड रखता हूँ। मैं इसका सख्त मुखालिफ हूँ कोरोनाइजेशन का, और शिद्दत से चाहता हूँ कि हमारे सारे काम हमारी अपनी ज़बान में हों। लेकिन चूँकि गुज़िश्ता 45 साल से जो जामियात के अंदर पढ़ाने का मौका मिला मुझे, वहाँ पे यही मजबूरी थी कि उनका ज़रिया तालीम अंग्रेज़ी रहा या अरबी रहा, तो वो दो ही ज़रिए हो सकते थे अपने नुकात तैयार करने के भी और बयान करने के भी। लेकिन अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मुझे उर्दू से इतना ताल्लुक़ लाज़मन है कि अगर ये कहा जाए कि आप पूरे 1 घंटे बग़ैर किसी अंग्रेज़ी लफ्ज़ के सिर्फ़ उर्दू में बात करें तो इंशाअल्लाह मैं कर सकता हूँ। ऐसा कोई ये मुश्किल काम नहीं है, लेकिन लोग घबरा जाते हैं कि क्या मुश्किल आ पड़ी हमारे ऊपर। तो एनी हाउ ये जो गुजारिशात आपके सामने हैं इसका मतलब ये है कि इन एनी सोसाइटी we use certain norms to judge, and those norms are based on our initial values. So positive sciences describe objects as phenomena, while normative sciences talk about it. Ethical judgments involve use of term right, wrong, moral, immoral, ought to do, should do, duty, bad, good, and so on. But does goodness or righteousness depends upon their results or circumstances and situations? This again is a question raised in ethical discussions, and it is said that they are two separate things. Ethics as a normative science tries to resolve these and similar issues. It deals with the study with the ideals and standards of rightness and wrongness, good and evil involved in human conduct. Unlike other focus areas, it has a wider scope and domain. ये तो हम कर चुके हैं, कैसे आ गया दोबारा? For example, psychology deals mainly with individuals' cognitive emotional behavior in a cultural context. It tries to understand a person's personality and its formative phases. Human desire, wants, wishes in psychology are studied from a psychological perspective. Human desire and wants depend on the world view of a person or society. Ethical norms in the Western and Eastern thought are also subject to social environment. All this has been said earlier. Ethics is organically related with political, social, economic, cultural, educational, legal and communicational domains. जो भट्टी साहब यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं उनका ताल्लुक कम्युनिकेशनल डोमेन से है. Legitimacy of acquisition and consolidation of power in politics and monopoly and control of resources in economics are essentially ethical issues. What it means very simply, if you call an economy capitalist or an economy socialist, what does that mean? It simply means that in a society you have agreed that entrepreneur, the person who comes forward to invest and do an economic activity, is free. For example, if today you have done your just BS in computing and you come to know that the digital games in market are very much common, and you say, okay, I enter the field in the market, and you capitalize on the market and in Asia become the largest supplier of digital games, then this means a laissez-faire society, a open society where you have full economic liberty. It also means that your main concern is to become the largest entrepreneur in Asia through digital games. But have you ever tried to find out when a 4-year child, a 15-year-old teenager, an adult is investing 4 hours or 5 hours in that digital game, is that degenerating his brain cells or activating them? It's not your concern. Your concern is make money, capitalism. Therefore, for you, what is good is money. When you want to establish a industry for soft drinks and you buy the formula from Coca-Cola company, which they keep always secret, which addicts people, and you introduce your own soft drink, and within 5 years, from Gwadar till Khyber Pass, your soft drink is popular. Have you ever tried to find out its biological effects on the stomach, on the habit of people, on their sleep? Never. Because for you it's not a problem. The problem for you, your ultimate good is money. So what we are saying here is that ethics is right there deep in everything. Whether you are a professional, a dentist, a physiotherapist, well, you have a male patient, a female patient, and you have to do physical therapy, not just mechanical therapy. What will be ethical? How much pressure, how long, and how, in what environment? Ethics. But do we teach that? Do we consider that? Or whatever is being done in economics, political science, sociology, medical science is based on that theory of knowledge which Gray gave us, which told us this is how the human body is, and period. So ethics has direct link with all these, and it's a matter of resource generation and resource utilization, resource maximization. Everything falls in the category of ethics. Desire and wish are terms, as terms are used synonymously in psychology, economy, politics, as well as ethics. Yet there is a difference. The term wish refers to those desires that continue to be effective. An effective wish may be or may not lead to a definite act of will. An intention or resolution is more than a wish. It leads to action or force of will or power or carrying out an act. You may have an unlimited number of desires, but are those also translated into reality in action? You may have a desire to become President of Pakistan, but is that by way of developing friendship with some army generals, some politicians, or by a long plan of 25 years which you draw yourself? I will do following steps next 5 years, next 5 years, next 5 years, till I am able to contest for presidency and get elected. What? Desires unlimited, but effective desires and wish are different, and all those are to be measured on the benchmark of ethics. Human beings are also members of a group, a family, a nation, a profession, or a trade. This affects their deliberate and willful action. The true intention corresponds pretty close to true purpose. Your true intention must correspond to your action. Your ultimate desire is to get your contract in the university till you die, but you think you can achieve that by praising the Vice Chancellor, the Chancellor, visiting them and saying, "Sir, you have made a university wonderful. Oh, you are so knowledgeable person. Oh, you are so." Ultimate objective is what? To get your contract till you die. Is that ethical? Is that corresponding? Therefore, ethics is not just simply game of words. It's a matter of total transformation of human behavior. So what's the end? The purpose of graduate course is to learn, while intention is to achieve or a PhD. Why we are so much crazy about PhD? It's the entry ticket, or is it a revolutionary action? PhD is defined as your only contribution to the world of knowledge which was never made before. That means something new and unique. But how many PhDs can be categorized under that definition? Even a person who has done a very hard work and done PhD, after PhD, is the person still alive or dead? Is it the end or means? If it was means, then what has he done after PhD? What's ultimate objective? Ultimate objective is to get Nobel Prize in research, or patent, or what? Or become national scholar, international scholar, what? So every single aspect, any example can be taken, and we find there may be a difference between immediate and remote intention. Immediate intention is to get PhD. Ultimately, you become Vice Chancellor. You want to become Vice Chancellor, and you have read, unless I have PhD, I can be a Vice Chancellor. So you are your ultimate. X and Y may have immediate intention to save P from drowning, while X may do so simply to save the life, while Y may save him from drowning to hang him later on, because he is supposed to be hanged, not drowned. How do you differentiate? Ethics is such an interesting area. It all depends on you. If you use your brain, raise questions, which you never do. Ethics means raising question. Is it right or wrong? Is it right or wrong? Why Islam insists on niyyah? Intention. Why? What's the intention? Is the intention to get appreciation? Beautiful lecture. So you are elated. Excellent. Is that the objective? Or motivation of the people? Or sharing the knowledge? Or impacting on their thought process? Agitating them? What is the actual objective of the discourse and purpose? So ethics makes us decide what is our immediate and ultimate intention and objective. We may also distinguish between outer and inner intention of an act. The outer intention of lifting a man fallen in a ditch may be to help him come out, while the inner intention may be to relieve myself from distress. People think it's a very good thing I have done. I helped the person. But I am very selfish. It was my own problem. I will feel very uncomfortable and never sleep my whole night if I don't bring him out from there. So where do you draw a line? It's a very interesting discipline. Okay. The outer intention may be just to have relieved yourself in the peace. There can be a conscious or unconscious intention of an act. Social work may be due to concern for well-being of mankind, or for your personal gratification, or getting a certificate from the university that so and so has done good social work, or ultimately a TV coverage that you are shown nationally, or given an award. What's the intention? What's the purpose? And that makes your action ethical or unethical. A formal and material intent may also be different. Two persons may intend to overthrow a political regime with common material intention, while formal intention of one may be liberal policy of the state, other may do so because he thinks the state is too conservative, and both join in overthrow. Both join. So ethics means that judgment. Now comes the main idea for which the whole lecture was designed.
So I have a
Please.
Yeah.
Very good question, and a very practical question. Unfortunately, in any society, you have certain practices which are highly unethical but accepted by the people. I receive letters, telephone calls from some very high level government servants, even judges, sometimes army officers, some lieutenant general, major general, some others, and they don't have to call me at all for what they call, but they think if they call they can get things done easily, and that is unethical. But people think if they use these means then they can get things done. One of those is flattery, praise, showing people you are their servant and they are your boss. I always say that in Islamic vocabulary, the word boss does not exist except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nowhere. But unfortunately, the practices in society, people think that if they are in a department head, director, dean is everything. They are nothing, they are zero. And they think Vice Chancellor is zero, nothing. I believe that it's only your sincere work that counts and that should count, and that will even change that crazy Vice Chancellor who is always doing things on pieces of paper or telephone calls, to change his behavior. Because when he finds a person is not praising, not flattering, but doing some work, then he cannot sleep at night with guilt in his heart that I have done something wrong. Every human being has a conscience, and that conscience, whether you are a Muslim or non-Muslim, disturbs you. Why we have thousands of clinical psychologists making lots of money in America and Europe and everywhere? Why? Because of these psychological processes. And why the Quran calls nafs mutmainna, the self, not soul, the self which has become satisfied, has no disturbance, has no depression, has no anxiety, has nothing like that. And that comes only when you are trying to relate yourself with your Rabb and not with individuals. The Quran says sometimes you think something is good for you, it may be bad for you. Something you think bad, it may have good for you. So when a person is flattering an officer, a senior person, with an intention in mind that this will work, and it may work, and ultimately that becomes harmful for the person. So the whole process becomes very bad, irrelevant. It's much better and ethical not to indulge in those kind of activities, but be very straightforward. Does not mean rough, impolite, uncourteous, but simply means that your work has to speak, not moving around a person, trying to always praise the person, and that's how becoming near to him. So this very simple response to your question, it's always unethical to use all those means. जी क्या चीज़ क़ौलन सदीदा, yes, yes. The Quran says that you should use that word or a speech which is definite and which is clear and which is not covered with different meaning. Unfortunately, in our society, and not our society, globally, I have taught in America over 12 years, I have taught in China, I have taught in Malaysia, I have taught in Pakistan, I have been traveling throughout my life, and nowhere I find people who are all ethical, and nowhere all who are unethical. You find people very ethical, non-Muslims, and many Muslims very unethical. But what counts is if you are doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you ultimately either your own self satisfied, or even your own lifetime you can see it work. It works. It's wrong to think that those who are following ethical principles are fools, and those who are using tricks are smart and intelligent. It's wrong. In my own life, I have seen people who use all kind of tricks ultimately get exposed and lose self-respect, if not social respect. In their own self, they know what they are. It's not a matter of what people say about them. So what pays you is that ethical behavior which makes a person upright and straightforward. So I'm glad that you came up with the question, and I want many more questions to emerge in our discussion, inshallah. This equation took me a very long time, many years, to develop it and think about it. All we have said in our discussion of over hour and a half means that either east or west, wherever you find ethical norms and values, there are two stages through which they have gone. One is local custom and tradition. What's happening in a village in France or in a county in Britain, and then that becomes social habit and behavior. In that area, people think this is what is to be done. So when a child is born, they will have a bouquet, or they will have sweets, or they will have certain kind of things which they go and offer to their friends and well-wishers, or people bring to the family where a child is born. This is the custom and tradition. Ultimately, if you hear about someone having a baby and you just go and say, hello, how are you? Then they expect. And you also feel embarrassed. You are going without any gift. That means it's norm, value. But what's the source of that? From where it comes? It comes from here. Therefore, you say in our brotherly, boys and girls can shake hand. Others say, no, it's haram. Haram, how can they do it? Therefore, you say in our community, a sister-in-law, a brother-in-law can sit next to each other and for hours joke. But is that really value given by Islam? No, never. What is the source? This is the source. You say local custom, in our brotherly, in our village, in our community. So this is the diagram that tells you all I have discussed till now for hour and a half. Then we see another diagram, and that diagram tells us that values are given by Wahi. Wahi tells us what is right, what is wrong. Is it right to bow down in front of my parents, or be very noisy and loud in front of them? So the Quran says, if one or both of them are with you, then don't say a word of uff, but bow down, bend down, humble down, and pray that, oh Allah, they have been so kind to me when I was insignificant. Now be kind to them. Why the Quran says? Is it Arabian custom? Chinese custom? Buddhist custom? Balochi custom? Which custom? From where the value comes? Therefore, the epistemic paradigm, source of knowledge, we'll have a separate module on that, what is Islamic epistemology. But here, the source is not local custom, but divine guidance. That brings universal values which are not social product, nor from society. And that change the society. So your behavior is subject to values, not what is taught to me, to all people in the world today. What I was taught is no different than what Lily has said, what others have said. I have been teaching anthropology, sociology and psychology all my life to my students. And in anthropology I have told them, this is how the society works. So you take your camera to a Nubian tribe, take photographs and then tell us this is their custom. But that custom is local, not divine values. Sociology telling me same thing, society. This is our social practice. Same psychology, same economy. Every discipline that is taught in the West or in our country is based on the earlier diagram. It's not just for ethics, but for all social sciences, applied sciences. That's why I said to make a very simple diagram for a complex issue. The complex issue can be simplified if you only understand it. So here you find that all behavior, behavioral psychology, and I have been teaching that myself because that's my area of specialization, is all wrong, because that tells me this young boy and young girl, they are 11 years, 12 years old, and they are not shaking hand and not hugging each other. They have some psychic problem, because teenage means sexuality and closeness. This is the philosophical basis. If a girl in America or France does not date, parents are worried she is abnormal because of that diagram. Social custom, she must date, she must have friends. On campus, if a girl does not have on the whiteboard, this is the most liked girl on campus, she feels embarrassed, depressed. Based on what? Social values. They become norm. Popularity. How popular I am. And unfortunately, that's spreading very fast in your country. So here, ethical behavior is to be subjected, not what you are doing becomes norm. Keeping in view this diagram, now try to analyze from wherever you come. You come from Miyawali, you come from Ziyarat, you come from Sakkar, you come from Multan, you come from Bhakkar, anywhere. Tell me what have you been doing? These values in this way or the other way? We have been worshipping local customs. Proud of that. This is our tradition. If this person, young boy, came and asked hand of my daughter, and he is from that low brotherly, how come he had the courage? Shoot him. How come he came to me? I am the biggest landowner of the area. How could he have the courage to come and ask? Shoot him, kill him. Is that based on any values? Which values? The one you saw earlier. That gives people pride. That's why they call themselves, this is Pashtun culture, Saraiki culture, this is our traditions, and we kill people because of that. So ethics, where is ethics? In local customs or somewhere else? What are these universal values? How they affect will come later on. Right now, the idea was that you are exposed to how ethics and morality is understood in both East and West, including ourselves. We don't alienate ourselves from that. and how Islamic ethics and morality provides us a completely different paradigm. Islamic paradigm is summarized in this simple diagram. For it, ethical values are not Arabian. If you use a scarf, you are not following Arabia. It's not Arabian custom. It's what the Quran and Prophet told because of revelation. When the Prophet saw his sister-in-law Asma coming in front of him without covering herself properly, he told his wife, tell your sister, when a Muslim girl becomes adult, nothing beyond this and this should be visible. It was not Meccan society, Medinan society, tribes who were saying do that. It's revelation, wahi, that tells. So the source of knowledge, the source of culture, the source of thought, whatever you call it, is different, and therefore Islamic ethics and morality is a different breed. It is not what we call Mashraqi riwayat or adab. There is no Mashriq and Maghrib in ethics. Islamic ethics is universal. Unfortunately, if you read on so-called Oriental or Mashriqi tehzeeb, you will be, if you read with critical mind, you will be ashamed how those values have been given to us traditionally. For centuries, people have been giving those to us, and those are not Islamic values at all. They are totally. When Sayyid Ahmad of Bareilly in late 1790s or beginning of 18th century, when he married his widowed sister-in-law, a hue and cry was raised all over India. How come a widow is married to a person who was brother-in-law? How? Because it was highly unacceptable. Islam never said that. A widow can be married. It was Hinduism that said, kill the widow with her husband, burn her. Not Islam. Was it a custom based on this diagram? No. Many of the customs, sometimes in families you find that boys and girls are mixing in a very frank manner, but is that also what is ethical? Not at all. Therefore, the whole process of why something is value in Islam is not because of customary practice, but a value comes from beyond, not from inside me, but from revelation. It's not me who is deciding what is right and wrong. It's not my choice. It's not subjective. It's highly objective. Wahi is not a matter of what Prophet thinks himself. No, what Allah wants him to do. Therefore, this diagram summarizes what we are supposed to later on go in detail in Islamic ethics and morality and discover its relevance with our profession. Any last question? Any difficulty, any problem? कोई आपका कोई सवाल आप में से किसी का? जी जी ये निकल सकता है 2 महीने में। जी हाँ, अगर आप मुझे बताइए कि क्या इस्लामाबाद के रहने वाले, मैं वहाँ पे सन 80 से हूँ इस्लामाबाद में, इस्लामाबाद के रहने वाले कभी बेल्ट यूज़ करते थे ड्राइविंग करते वक्त? कभी यूज़ करते थे कहने के बावजूद? हाँ? नहीं किया ना। 1 महीने सिर्फ 5-6 चौराहों के ऊपर लोग खड़े हुए, जिसे नहीं किया 300 रुपये उसको पकड़ा दिए। आज वो पिंडी का ड्राइवर हो या लाहौर का हो, कहीं का हो, जब घुस रहा होता है इस्लामाबाद फ़ौरन बेल बांध लेता है। इस्लामाबाद का ड्राइवर पिंडी में घुसते उतार देता है। That means to make it a practice requires only 1 month. I said 2 months. And giving you a concrete example. It's not hypothetical. ये अमरन हुआ है ना प्रैक्टिकली, आज भी हो रहा है, क्यों नहीं हो सकता? It only requires political will, a mechanism, only 2 things, nothing else. Those who talk have no desire to implement. Those who want to implement have no power. Unless we put them together. Now what you can do is, you can put both these together in the mind and heart of your student, which we have never done for 70 years. We never did it. If we did, they will be different human beings. They will be very compassionate medical doctors, not selfish. Today, a number of children die in hospitals because doctors don't attend them properly. No. If you put these ideas in the heart and mind of your student, not just what you read in computing and biology and physiology, then you find a change in society. I believe only in change through education, no other way. And now media has assumed the role of university, and you can do it. You can have most sophisticated programs, and the secret of media is that don't do it overtly but covertly. Don't do it openly but secretly, which they are doing to you and to me. Do you think that you need to first have a music, then a musical dance, then an embrace of a young boy and girl, and at the end a representative of a biscuit? Why it is that? Because they want me to get used to embracing of boys and girls on the stage and show young boys and girls who are not doing it, they are missing it. They may not buy the biscuit, makes no difference. The ad was for that biscuit, that chocolate, but the message is of that sexuality, corruption. Then we say boys and girls are corrupt. Why not? They must be corrupt. So it's very doable thing. It's not difficult. If you use these 2 methods in 2 months, not more than that. अच्छा जी, बहुत शुक्रिया.